everyone, and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda, and in today's video we're going to be doing 4 different types of ombre nails using the Kiki London Easy Build Up Gel. So I really hope you all enjoy watching. Now I am working on display tips today, so I'm going to come straight in with my base coat, and for my base I am using RB02. As always, I will leave a dedicated prep video in the description box below, which talks you through the steps that you would take before applying your base coat if you was working on yourself or a client. Now with the rubber coloured bases, I love that they have a really great selection of pinks and nudes because they pair up really nicely with the Easy Build Up gels. So here I'm using RB02, which is a really nice soft pink shade. You do get a bit more opacity with this when you are using it on the natural nails, whereas here on clear tips, obviously we're working over a clear base, so it doesn't pop as much, but it still gives you a little bit more coverage under the Easy Build Up gel compared to if you was using a clear base. So I've applied a thin coat of this to all of the nails, and then we're going to pop them in to cure for 30 seconds. And then for the 2 shades today from the Easy Build Up range, I'm going to be using neutral pink, and then we're also going to be using snow glaze, because on this first ombre design we're going to be doing a classic pink and white fade or baby boomer. I will also be using my ombre brush a lot throughout this video because it really helps distribute the Easy Build Up gel to create a nice fade. So coming in over the top, we've already done our base coat, so I'm coming in and I'm working on what's going to be the white tip part of the baby boomer. So I've applied a thin coat which is going to act as a slip layer like I would if I'm doing a full cover nail. So a thin coat basically that's going to guide our buildable layer of gel to where I want it to go, and you see that I blended this out slightly using that ombre brush. Then I'm picking up my larger builder ball of gel, but I'm only really picking up a medium sized ball because I want to do this in 2 layers. And then I'm just going to guide this down, taking it from side to side using quite slow sweeping motions. You don't want to play around with your builder gel too much or work with it too quickly, as this can put air bubbles into the gel. So as you can see here, I'm just building up the tip of the nail, getting a nice even coat of this, and then once I'm happy with that first layer, I'm going to pop this in to cure for 60 seconds. Now snow glaze is quite a soft white, but once you come in with that second coat, it does build up the opacity a little bit more. It's brilliant though for any kind of baby boomer or ombres, because these, no matter what products you're working with, are usually a lot easier to do if you're working with a softer white. On the second coat, I've done exactly the same, so a thin wet slip layer which helps your builder gel layer glide into place. Blended that back with the ombre brush, and then picking up a more medium sized ball of gel, I'm just taking this from side to side, making sure it goes right out to both side walls, and then coming down towards the tip of the nail. With this, I'm going to be building up my strength and structure as well, so I won't need to do a too thick encapsulation layer. And then again, I took my ombre brush and blended that back so that there's not a harsh line where the snow glaze ends. But again, like I said, because it's a softer white, you don't get that harsh line, which makes it brilliant for an ombre. Then we're going to take the neutral pink, and I'm going to start off again with that slip layer, taking this just ever so slightly over where the snow glaze ended. And I'm just making sure here that I've got a nice neat cuticle line with it. With your slip layer, when you are working on a real nail, this is where you want to make sure that you're being really careful that you're not getting any of that builder gel, that slip layer, sorry, with the builder gel on the skin or the cuticles. If you do happen to get any on the skin or cuticles, just wipe it off with a little bit of alcohol. It's easier to do this before you come in with your thicker builder gel layer, because your builder layer ends up gliding wherever you've popped down your slip layer. So if you get your slip layer nice and neat, then your builder layer goes on a lot easier. And I'm doing the same here. I'm rolling that product off my brush down at that cuticle area, and then working it from side to side, making sure that we've got good coverage right out towards those side walls, and then walking it down to roughly where that white starts ending. Then I'm going to switch to my ombre brush and gently glide this down over the snow glaze. And what is brilliant about the Easy Build Up gel is they have quite a strong inhibition layer. So when you come over the top with the neutral pink, it melts into that inhibition layer that's left behind after you've cured your snow glaze. Again, I'm going to be doing this in 2 coats, 2 fairly thin to medium coats. So I'm going to come in again with my slip layer. Keeping that nice and thin is only there to help guide your ball of gel into place, but it does make a huge difference when it comes to guiding that ball of gel into place. Then again, blending it out nicely. Now on this particular nail or this particular ombre, I've kind of done half pink and white of both the colours. A lot of the time though, when I'll do an ombre, I won't bring the white down as far as what I did in this nail. But again, this kind of comes down to personal preference, but I do usually prefer the look of when you've got the pink roughly 3/4 of the way down the nail and the white more just at the tip of the nail. So then again, with this second coat, you want to be really careful that you don't cover up your snow glaze too much. So I'm not bringing this as far down as what I did the first coat. And then I'm going to switch to that ombre brush and just gently feather out the very tip of that gel. I'm not pulling any of the neutral pink down. I'm just gently feathering out where that neutral pink ends. And then once I'm happy with this, we're going to pop this in to cure. Then as I mentioned with encapsulation, I'm not going to need to do a thick layer of encapsulation because we have already built up a lot of the strength and structure with the neutral pink and the snow glaze. So I'm simply applying a thin layer of crystal clear to the entire nail so that we're going to protect that blend we've created, because I do like to file to get a nice crisp shape, and I do like to buff the nail to make sure I'm really happy with my application. So that thin layer of crystal clear is just going to protect that blend we've created. On to the second nail, we're going to start off, we're going to be doing very similar, a pink and white ombre, but we're going to have a hidden glitter cuticle area. So I'm going to work on the white tip first of all. And I'm going to come in with my thin slip layer and then pick up a small ball of gel, work this in exactly the same as we did before to create our white tip. And again, I'm working with a fairly thin to medium layers because we've got a lot going on with the ombre. I don't want to end up with a too thick nail. And then I do come in and do this second thin coat of snow glaze again. I didn't do this as thick as what I did on the previous nail just because I wanted it to look a little bit more softer. I noticed on the first nail the white still looked quite strong, even though like I said it is a softer white. So I worked a little bit thinner here because I can build up my thickness with my crystal clear if necessary, just because I wanted to show you guys how versatile these products are. So although it's quite a sheer colour, you can build it up with two or three coats or thicker layers to get a more opaque shade. But if you want to keep with that softer white, just work in thinner layers and then build up your thickness or your structure of the nail with your crystal clear once it comes to encapsulating. So like I said, down at the cuticle area, I want to do a hidden glitter cuticle area. So I've mixed in some raw glitter with a little bit of clear base coat, and then using my round nail art brush, I'm just getting this into place at that cuticle area and then starting to fade it down into the center of the nail. So at the moment we have no builder gel in the center of the nail. And then I'm just going to create like I want the glitter to look really nice and full coverage at the cuticle area, and then fade out ever so slightly, because what we're going to do is we're going to pop our neutral pink down in the center of the nail, and that's going to fade ever so slightly over the white and ever so slightly over the glitter. So it kind of is very similar to a 3-color ombre, but I really love doing this with glitter. So once that glitter is cured in place, we're going to swap to the Easy Build Up gel again. So same as before, I always like to do a slip layer no matter what kind of design I'm working with. I find it a lot easier. So I'm taking the slip layer to where I want it to go on the nail, and then I'm going to fade back ever so slightly over the glitter. Again, because this is quite a sheer pink, it fades beautifully no matter what you're fading it over. So really light strokes with your ombre brush. This is why the ombre brush is brilliant for this kind of ombre as well, because you can just use the very tips of the brush just to feather it down. It's slightly different to how you would use the brush when you're doing an ombre with gel polish. Then I've picked up my medium-sized ball of gel, rolling it off the brush into that slip layer. The slip layer really helps pull that ball of gel from your brush as well. And then I'm just going to guide this from side to side and being really careful that I'm keeping it in the middle of the nail. I'm not going to take it too far over the white, and I don't want to cover up the glitter that's right at the cuticle area either. And then again, blending with that ombre brush, because this really helps get a really nice soft transition between the pink and the white. Then we're going to pop that in to cure, and now we do need to come in and encapsulate. So I'm going to take the crystal clear, and I need to make sure that I'm fully encapsulating the cuticle area because that glitter there doesn't have any product over the top of it. So I'm coming in with my slip layer and painting this over the entire nail. And then I'm picking up just a small ball of builder gel and taking this over that glitter area into the neutral pink. Now I did build the neutral pink up more than the snow glaze, so I didn't need to take as much of the crystal clear over that center part of the nail, otherwise it would have ended up too bulky. So I'm basically, with this encapsulation layer, just focusing it where it needs to go on the nail. This did make the application a little bit uneven, that's why I flipped the nail upside down just to help self level that out. And the Easy Build Up Gel does self-level absolutely beautifully, but if you do find you are a little bit unhappy with your application or it is a little bit uneven, then it does file or buff super easy as well. So you won't find that you're spending ages filing or buffing out any unevenness to the nail. On to the next now, I'm going to actually do this one slightly different. So I'm starting off with a thin base layer of neutral pink. We're going to cure that for 30 seconds. And this one, we're going to do a foil ombre. So I'm taking my foil gel, and then here I have some of the marble foils. As always, I will leave all of the products I've used listed in the description box below, as well as a link to the Kiki London website. So if you are looking for any of the particular products I've used in today's video, they will all be listed below. Now I like to remove the tacky inhibition layer from the builder gel before I apply my foil gel. So just using an alcohol wipe, I've just removed that tacky inhibition layer, and then I'm coming in with my foil gel just at the tip of the nail and blending that back with my ombre brush. Now of course with foils you aren't going to get a blend as such, but it does work out a little bit nicer if you do blend the foil gel back, because then when you apply your foil, it won't have a crisp straight line where your foil gel ends. It will look slightly jagged, which helps create that ombre effect. So now I'm taking my foil, I've cut out a small piece using some scissors, and I've just sort of selected a part of the marble design that I like the most and that looks quite vibrant as well. And then I've pressed that down onto my tip, and then I'm just going to take my silicone tool to help ease out any creases. As always, I do struggle a little bit applying foils to these little nail tips. It's a lot harder than when you're applying them on yourself or a client, because obviously when you're pressing down on a real hand, you can apply a bit more pressure, where when you press down on these little tips, they just want to fling off the stand. So I did my best, and then I just come in and tapped on a little bit more at the edges, just because the edges hadn't transferred as good as I wanted them to. And then one of the things I love when you are encapsulating foils is you can include some glitter as well. So I've got my foil done, and then I'm going to take some of the gorgeous champagne spritz and the striped liner brush, and I'm just going to run some of this glitter through the foil, because I think in a marble everyone needs a little bit of sparkle, and I love doing this when I know I'm encapsulating in foil, just because I love the way it gives a little bit more depth to the nail. So taking that striped liner brush, I'm just taking a really small amount of glitter and just running it through the marble. Obviously you don't want to cover up too much of that foil, so I'm trying to follow some of the lines that are already there in that marble pattern. And then once I was happy with that, I'm going to pop that in to cure for 30 seconds. And now we're going to create our ombre and sort of natural nail bed part of the nail. Again, coming in with that thin slip layer, taking this just over where that foil ends, because we do want to cover up that sort of line where the foil ends. And then I'm just going to blend that down with the ombre brush. It's going to be okay if you bring a little bit of that neutral pink down over the foil, because it is sheer enough that it's not going to overly cover the foil, and it will just add a hint of pink over the top of that foil, which looks quite pretty. Then I'm going to pick up my ball of gel, and you'll see that I kind of play around with my brush in the bottle, and that's because what I basically do is pull off the gel from one side of the brush so that there's only my ball of builder gel on one side of the brush and at the bottom half of the brush. This way it rolls off your brush really nice and easily into that slip layer. Then we're guiding that from side to side, and then I pull my brush off, switch back to that ombre brush and blend this down again, just so there's not a harsh sort of thick ridge where your builder gel ends and your foil starts. We're then going to pop that in to cure for 30 seconds, and I did want to come in with another layer more to just build up the coverage down at that natural nail bed area and sort of build up a bit of the cuticle and apex as well, because then, like I said, very similar with the first nail we did, if you build up a lot of your design using, say, the neutral pink, then when it comes to encapsulating, you only need to encapsulate the areas that are a little bit thin. So we're doing the same again, just coming in with that builder layer, being really careful that we don't end up with a too thick cuticle. When I'm working on my own nails, I will tilt the nail downwards a little bit, and this helps pull the gel away from your cuticle area and stops it sort of running back and flooding that cuticle area. And then again, just always coming in with the ombre brush, because it makes such a difference just fading that out. Now we do need to come in and build up the tip of the nail and encapsulate in that foil. So I'm going to take the crystal clear, and we're going to do it very similar to what we did with the neutral pink, but just on the tip of the nail. So slip layer to begin with. Now here it can look as though you've got a thick line where that clear gel has gone over the neutral pink. This does melt in to the inhibition layer a little bit, but I always like to buff my nails at the end anyway, or even file them, which I do in this set, and I have left that in for you guys to see. So don't stress too much if it does look a little bit uneven at this point. As you can see here, it's already melted in a little bit, so it's not a massive ridge or a massive line or anything like that. Now that that tip is fully encapsulated, we're going to move on to the last design of our 4 ombres. This one is a really simple one. So we're going to come in with a thin layer of neutral pink. I like to just make sure that I've got a base layer down if I'm not, depending on the design I'm doing. So here I'm going to be doing a glitter fade from the tip down. So rather than coming in with that glitter directly on top of the base coat, I would rather have a base layer of gel down. This is great if you're doing an infill, because you can then file back to that base layer, do your infill, and you've removed all of the nail art without having to completely remove the nails. So then I've taken that beautiful champagne spritz, painted that on to the tip of the nail, and then using my ombre brush, I'm going to fade this back. Like I said before, where the Kiki London Easy Build Up Gel leaves behind a strong inhibition layer, things like glitters blend back beautifully. So it's so effortless to do a glitter fade. Then we're going to come in and build up the natural nail bed area and also fade over the glitter. Now, depending on the design you're doing, here I want my glitter to be underneath the blend. If you wanted the glitter to be on the top, then what I would do is I would do my 2 coats of builder gel first, and then apply my glitter and then encapsulate. Kind of depends on the fade you're going for, but I really love these more hidden glitter fades where the glitter is underneath the core color. I think it's a really pretty effect, and again, it adds a lot of depth to the nail. So we've applied our slip layer, and we're now moving on to applying that builder layer. So I'm rolling it off my brush, and it is sped up in the video, but I'm really gently taking that product from side to side, predominantly leaving a lot of it in that center part of the nail to build up the sort of spine and apex area, and then just gently blending this down. It was looking a little thin at the cuticle area, so I did just come in with a little bit more just to make sure I had the right thickness down at the cuticle. And then we're just going to blend this down. Don't take it too far down towards the tip of the nail. And here I just love that effect where some of the glitter has got the pink over the top, but then right at the very tip of the nail you've got that strong gold coming through. So we only need to do a thin encapsulation layer on the very tip of the nail. So I'm just going to come in and apply my crystal clear and then my builder gel layer just to build up that tip ever so slightly. We don't need to build up too much thickness down at the tip end of the nail, but I do like to make sure that there's enough thickness there because, like I said, I do really like to file so that I get a nice crisp shape. And if you haven't got enough gel there, then you will end up ruining your structure when it comes to filing. So this is what all the nails look like now all of the design is finished. Before filing, you always want to remove that tacky inhibition layer using an alcohol wipe. Then I'm really loving the new rectangular files for shaping. I just find they give me a really brilliant shape effortlessly. So I've shaped the nail roughly to start with, and then I'm going to come over the entire surface of the nail and just even out any lumps or bumps that were in my application. Now with the 100 grit files and the easy build up gel, it does file down super quickly. So ideally you don't need the 100 grit file to do this. 180 will do the job perfectly. But if you are using a 100 grit file, just be really careful that you don't over file and file into the nail. So you don't need to apply hardly any pressure when you are filing with 100 grit, and you really only will need a few swipes across the nail and it will get rid of any unevenness. I do then like to come in and buff the nail. So I start off with the 100 grit side and then I swap to the 180 grit side. This just helps get out any of the scratches left behind from filing. If you find that your application has been spot on, then you might find that you don't actually need to file the nails. You might just want to file the free edge for the shape, but then you can just come in and buff instead if you want to. A lot of the time when I'm doing overlays, for example, I won't use a file. I would just use my buffer, start with the 100 grit side and then switch to the 180. Then you do need to make sure if you have filed and buffed, because obviously this is optional. You don't need to file and buff. You can come straight in with your top coat if you wish. But if you have filed and buffed, it's really important that you dust away all of the dust. I've used the Kiki London dust brush to do that. And then we're going to come in with the no wipe top coat and bring back all the shine and sparkles to these nails. I love, love, love this step, especially when I'm using the no wipe top coat, because the shine is just out of this world. So I'm going to apply a thin coat of this to all of these nails and then pop them in for their final cure. And then this, guys, is the finished result. So I really hope you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, then please do give it a thumbs up and leave us a comment below. And if you're not already subscribed, please do consider hitting that subscription button. I upload new videos every single Friday. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.